Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. We've got Andrew Pine on the show. He's the president and CEO of Wenco International Mining Systems. Very excited to have Wenco on. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is the first day of SME. We're recording the episode at. How's the show so far? Are people showing up already?
Yeah, it's quite busy. I was here 4 years ago, and I would say my impression is it's busier than then. So yeah, it's looked like a pretty good show.
How long have you been in the mining industry?
Oh, my first exposure to the mining industry was way back in 1997. So that's quite a few years.
97? Yeah, that's a while. What was your initial role, or how did you enter into it?
Yeah, I was initially recruited. I'm from Perth, Western Australia. That's where I hail from. Lived in Canada the last 10 years. I was recruited by a mining software company, and they were involved in the mine planning and geological modelling, so upstream from what we're doing now. Yeah, that took me through a lot of Asia and China and Russia for a number of years. So that was a very interesting experience. And I've been in Canada the last 10 years.
Where did you start with Wenco?
In 2016, I was recruited to take over from the founder of the company. So yeah, 7.5 years I've been at Wenco.
Oh, okay. Can you I might circle back to that and just get a little more of your backstory on it, but can you just give us a snapshot of Wenco for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, sure. So Wenco's core technology is fleet management for the mining industry, open pit. And Wenco was a company that was founded by three mining engineers that came out of the coal mines of British Columbia. So the company's been around since the 1980s. So it has a long history. And in 2009, the company was acquired by Autonomy Construction Machinery. So since then, it's been a holding owned subsidiary. And as I mentioned, I took over from Phil, one of those three founders, 7.5 years ago.
I'm always interested when people take over as a CEO. What was the first month like?
You know, it was interesting. I had a long history working for a company that was quite a lot bigger than Wenco at the time, and even though we were servicing the same mines, we were dealing with different people. And Wenco was a system I was familiar with. Because I've been shown the technology by some of the Wenco big customers. I would say that Wenco's core competence was engineering. They were very focused on building a high quality product. The reason that I was recruited by Hitachi to take it over was my background's more on the commercial side. My history, as I mentioned earlier, was building businesses up through Asia and Russia. Well, almost 25 years ago now, when mining technologies, mining software technologies specifically, were really non-existent in that part of the world. So I had a history of educating miners around what technology could deliver, and when they were looking for someone to take over from Phil, the founder, they approached me, and I came in, and it's been a very satisfying 7.5 years since that time.
Let's talk about our Heavy Industry World Tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide, and Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, easier. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. The mining industry is navigating a significant transformation driven by electrification, critical mineral dependency, and net zero targets. But balancing daily operations and capital projects can be overwhelming. Burns & McDonnell is your trusted EPC partner, supporting projects from concept to completion. With more than 125 years of experience, they stand ready to help the mining industry meet the demands of the energy transition. Visit burnsmcd.com to learn more.
I want to get into on your website. I've got it in front of me now. You're talking about pioneering open autonomy, and I want to talk about that. But I'm just before we do that, just some insight when you're talking about Russia, parts of Asia. Was the adoption then? How do you compare adoption of technology now to then? Was it easier then? Or is there a bigger appetite for it now? What is your sort of sense of the where the industry's at? Just personally, your personal view.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I would say that it's better now, and I've got some quite strong views on this topic actually. Certainly, my experience in Asia and China, I'll talk about that because that was really quite an eye opener for me. And it was February 2000 that I went to China for the first time, and that was 8 years of some pretty rich experiences. But the mining industry generally, I would say that up until 2016 weren't characterized as early adopters of technology. However, we had a sustained downturn between 2012 to 2016, and coming out of that, I think that a lot of the leaders in mining realize that their playbook of when prices are down, cut costs, and we'll be okay until the next upswing, because obviously the mining industry and commodity prices are very cyclical. But I think that downturn was sustained over a longer period of time, and coming out of that, I saw a new generation of leaders emerging in the industry, and certainly those new leaders were looking to change the business model. And from someone that's been on the technology side of the equation for as long as I have, that was a real breath of fresh air, because what I saw was much more of an innovative style. Mining companies would pilot new technologies. They were more collaborative. The models were becoming healthier in terms of the engagement with vendors. And I think that what that has led to is an explosion of software technology companies. And I'll talk about that specifically. There's a lot of engineering and other parts of the business, but that's not an area that I know enough to comment too much about. But certainly from the software side, it was really significant in terms of the change, and that's allowed us to do some things that have been pretty innovative, because you can't innovate in a silo. You do need customers that are willing to do that with you, and that's certainly been our experience, and it's been very rewarding for our customers and us over the last handful of years.
I do want to circle. I know people want to learn about it, so I want to highlight it quite quickly. The open autonomy. What is it? In a sense, is it? I see it and I go, oh, this is like an open software platform, but for specific to autonomy. So I made some assumptions, but I'll let you actually walk through what that is.
Yeah, sure. So maybe the best way to explain it is, if we look at autonomy, let's call it autonomy 1.0 in mining, which was basically what the equipment OEMs were bringing to the market, so Caterpillar and Komatsu. So in an autonomy system, there are layers of technology, and the base layer is the truck itself. Then you have what we call a drive-by-wire capability, which is the next layer of technology that controls the truck, the steering, the braking, the acceleration. And then you have the onboard autonomy system that's actually delivering the autonomy, the sensors. And then at the top layer, you had the fleet management system. Now, if you are buying autonomy 1.0, let's call it that, you're buying all of that from one company. You're buying that from Caterpillar or Komatsu, and they certainly created a lot of value for a lot of customers, and kudos to them. And I certainly don't want to diminish what they did, and are still doing. However, there are some constraints. But if I look at what open autonomy is, open autonomy 7 years ago was a concept. And the concept was, let's understand the layers of technology, and let's look at, can we provide a capability for companies to enter the mining industry and deliver a component, one of those layers of technology. So what Wenco did was we started to work through the ISO working groups, the mining working groups, to create ISO standards to be able to allow different layers of that technology to communicate. And that was a really important step. So effectively what open autonomy is, it is a system that allows different companies to provide different layers of technology. So what that creates is an innovative environment. And we've certainly seen that. And, that's really what we can talk about at this conference this week, because the customers we've been working with for a while have now allowed us to start to share some of the work we're doing. But effectively, that's the difference. Closed from one vendor, open, multiple vendors. And the value proposition for our customers is huge, but essentially what it gives them optionality. It gives them the choice to choose where they want to get the technology from. And what we see is a lot of companies entering the mining space, delivering very innovative solutions. So it's a pretty exciting time in this domain.
LiveMine is the data management solution for the digital mine, making mining operations paperless through an intuitive and easy-to-use app developed by mining professionals with decades of real-world experience, trusted by operators in 7 countries across the globe. Get better and more accurate data faster than ever and throw away your paper plods, PDF printouts, and shift sheets. Visit livemine.com.au to learn more. Your partner in technical services, AMPS, have been industry leaders in technical services optimization systems and training since 2011. With a team of over 70 resource professionals, AMPS provides world-class support to mining technical services teams globally. AMPS builds the capabilities within teams on site to maximize results and unlock value in mining operations. With significant experience in operational underground and open pit engineering and geology, AMPS is passionate about delivering value to their clients across an array of professional services. If you're looking to improve your mine site's technical services, visit advancedmps.com or email partner@advancedmps.com today. Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graybond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com.
I guess the obvious one is that it's mixed fleet is the high demand, right? Because you have to be able to, if you're operating a mixed fleet, you need to be able to put everything under, or they want to put everything under one operating system. Is that right?
Absolutely. That is probably one of the great benefits to miners that have mixed fleet, because certainly with the OEM-based systems, that requires a base truck that comes from the one vendor. And as we know, many miners have multiple flavors of fleet, and to adopt autonomy in the first iteration, that meant changing out your fleet, and there's big costs involved in doing that. So mixed fleet is certainly one of the attractions of this Autonomy 2.0.
Most operations would be mixed fleet, right? Are there many that are just one OEM?
There are some. I don't know the percentages, but certainly the majority is mixed fleet, and certainly larger companies like to have mixed fleet because in their buying processes, if they have multiple vendors, then obviously it gives them some purchasing power and negotiation ability. What they don't have when they commit to a closed autonomy system.
I kind of want to get an understanding. We've had similar, not this specific technology, but just similar conversations on the show before. And where is it at? How far, not the crystal ball, but just realistically, can you see a place where, there's full autonomy on a mine site? Has it been done anywhere? Is it close to being done in a lot of places? Sort of where do you see the market at?
Yeah, well, we're involved in a couple of projects ourselves directly, and I would say that, well, let me tell you what we have. So at the moment, there are fleets, not at a large production scale. So we have a mixed fleet of ultra-class haul trucks at Roy Hill, which is an iron ore miner in Western Australia, and they've been quite public about their aspirations and what they're doing, but that's a mixed fleet of Hitachi EH5000s and Caterpillar 793Fs. ASI Mining, the company providing the onboard autonomy, and Wenco, our company, is providing the fleet management. So they have 15 trucks cycling under a couple of excavators, and that's been working in a let's call it the autonomous zone for a while. I was there myself 12 months ago or so, and I was impressed with what I was seeing. However, Full production, their goal is 90 plus trucks. They're at 15. So
Wow.
adoption of autonomy, regardless of where it comes from, takes time, and certainly they're on their adoption curve. But that's a real project. The other project that we've been working on confidentially now for the last 5 years is with Rio Tinto, and we can talk more about this later. But there we have it's a single vendor truck coming from Scania. It's a smaller truck. It's a different use case, and they have 10 of those vehicles operating at an iron ore mine in Western Australia as well. So that's real. There are other companies that have sites in Europe and in the US. So I would say we're at the stage of these technologies being proven. If we're talking about technology readiness levels, we're still migrating up to the to full technology readiness, but they're making great progress. So I would estimate, based on the information I have, within the next 12 months, we're going to be seeing these fleets being automated with this new flavor of autonomy at scale within the next 12 months. That's my expectation.
What is the biggest challenges? And part B to that question, once you get 15 trucks, is it easy enough to get 90? Like, or is it a whole different set of problems? Is it how does it scale based on the amount of units you're actually operating?
Good question. I mean, certainly the scalability, the congestion, the amount of data that you're moving back and forth.
Right.
You have the network capabilities. Is the mine set up properly from a geometry standpoint? So there's a whole lot of challenges to migrate up to a full production autonomous fleet, and there's different use cases as well. So, for example, in a large iron ore mine, you would have different dumping profiles, and without getting too much into the weeds, but dumping material over an edge or in a paddock is much less complex than direct tip into a crusher, for example, where obviously your target is much smaller. So the use cases are being progressively rolled out. So that will all of that means that it takes time to adopt autonomy at a full production scale.
This is shamelessly promoting yourself, but that is what the show is for. So, where do you see Wenco? Where do you see your advantage? Trying to be a leader in this space. Where do you have the edge in the industry, and possibly, if you can get into it, where are you going that will continue to give you that edge?
Sure. One of the characteristics of the Wenco company, and this existed when I arrived 7 years ago, is Wenco as a company were very engineering centric. So they're very focused on the technology, and they're also very focused on customer value. And because of that, being part of the DNA, some large customers came to us and started to ask us to think about what we could do differently and how we deployed our technology. Certainly the Rio engagement goes back to us committing to something that was going to enable them to utilize some third-party technology. And we did that 6 years ago. And at that time, it wasn't in our commercial interest to do that. However, we very much talk about, we want to focus on value, our customers' value, and then be aware of how we can contribute to them realizing that value. And that might sound like a nice catchphrase, but actually it's the way we operate our business. So I'll give you an example, a very, very practical example. So when we were thinking about the layers of technology in open autonomy, we made the decision that we would actually publish the interface that we created between the onboard autonomy and the fleet management layer. And we designed that as an industry standard. So our competitors, our direct competitors, that's made available to them if they choose to use that. And the reason we did that, and our customers have even asked us, in fact, recently when I was up at Rio Tinto, the project sponsor said to me, I don't understand what Wenco's strategy is, because I don't understand how you're advantaged by this. And my response was, well, we're not. That's the whole purpose of open systems.
Mm-hmm.
If we truly commit to open systems, that means they must be fully open. We can't be expecting the industry to adopt standards, open standards, if
Right.
we're making any decisions that are to our own commercial benefit. Now, of course, we have a strategy of how we can actually benefit from this, but I think the most important thing is we made that full commitment to open autonomy a number of years ago. Customers have seen that in action. They've approached us wanting to work with us to do something differently. And here we are today with some really exciting projects and some great collaborations.
I don't think this is a false equivalency, and correct me if it is. It is. I remember in another career, I would oversee like website development. And there was a time where people were building, they would really trumpet their like very specific system. It was closed, nobody else could work on it but the geniuses that were developing it. And those companies went away because, I mean, maybe they're still around somewhere trying to sell their overpriced product, but it became a system where you could have a collaborative system, open systems where people, once if they moved on or if they needed something custom, a third party could come in and build it. Is it some similarity where you're not setting your client up that they're just so limited, and if new technology comes in, it can't be integrated, it can't be adapted, you can't adopt it. It just sort of opens up the whole, it just drives excellence, right? Am I understanding that right?
It's you're right. There are so many equivalencies. I think the best example, if we look at Apple, the iOS versus the Android operating systems, look at what happened to Apple's market share. Certainly in North America, Apple's done great, but it was a closed system. Now they're evolving their business model because they've had to.
Yeah.
But open allows innovation.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of examples. I mean, another example is Elon Musk and
With the car.
Tesla.
I was just thinking about that.
That's
Yeah.
a great example of complete commitment to open standards. But if we think about innovation, and this is really, to me, the most exciting thing about this open autonomy is innovation happens. It doesn't happen in large companies, or it might, but it's individuals that drive innovation. So innovation happens from small groups, single people. Now, if you are that small group, that innovative person creating something brand new, that's exciting. And, I look at some of the companies that we're working with and we're seeing emerge. They're very small companies, but their technology is absolutely groundbreaking. I'm owned by a very large company. As I mentioned earlier, Hitachi Construction Facility owners, 25,000 people, a very big company. Innovation is not their core. Small companies
Right.
innovate. And I think what's really exciting is open systems. You're actually giving them the road rules. So
Right.
I'll give you another example. I contacted the chair of AI at Oxford University, who was spinning up a autonomous vehicle company. You've got some of the brightest people in the UK working with this company. Mining wasn't on their radar. So I contacted him, and that was 5 years ago. And the technology is astounding what these companies can do. So that's what I think open autonomy, really is enabling, is we're giving those companies the road rules. We're telling them how they can interface with different layers of technology, and open wins. I unequivocal. That's what happens. Binary file structures, closed systems, lack of interoperability. All that delivers is constraints.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing and what we're fully committed to is we want to be part of the ecosystem. So what we need to do is, and we've been around a long time, so we have a decent footprint. What we want to be doing is working with companies, solving some of the problems that are hard to solve in mining, be very focused on customer value, new customer value, and take an open approach. And quite honestly, if we do that, I can attract really high quality software engineers because they get
Right.
excited by that.
Right. Yeah.
We do some great stuff. We have a lot of fun, and we're getting some, great kudos from some of our larger and smaller customers. So it's a lot of fun, very rewarding.
I have to ask, did you come to this? I mean, this approach is, uh, I agree with it 100%. Absolutely everything you're saying. It's similar to in our production world. I've given people tips on our business model, how we've actually made a go with it. Because my thought is, if you come on our show and have a good experience, and then go on the next three and it's a terrible experience, well, now it sort of sours the whole experience of coming on podcasts and web series. It's just a way of thinking. Did you come to that? Is that something that you just thought approach to business? Did you always have it, or is it something that you've developed with things like open AI coming on, or not open AI, but open systems? Um, was it developed, or is that something that's sort of a value that you've kind of carried with you in business?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. I mentioned earlier that before I arrived, the company had developed the technology that it was developed in such a way that it could integrate and be open. That was an engineering decision, not a commercial decision, that gave us that product. But do you know, we did this, made this commitment to open autonomy for a very specific reason. If we didn't, as a company, we predicted we would struggle to survive. So
Right.
we had a burning platform. And as I think most people know, that a crisis creates an environment where, autonomy can happen because people are looking for something new. And as I mentioned earlier, innovation typically happens in very small groups. And I remember the conversation in my office, it was back in 2018, where one of our senior engineers came into my office and started talking to me about a concept. Because of what I think I mentioned earlier, one of our customers said, we are going to adopt autonomy. We want to use your product, but if we adopt autonomy, that means we'll have to stop because of the closed systems I mentioned earlier.
Oh, it's because of the closed systems, not because of the capabilities, but because of the setup.
The OEMs,
Yeah, so they came to you and said, we want to work with you, but if it's a closed system, we can't, essentially.
that was a large customer, said, we want to use
Yeah.
Wenco. We want to keep using Wenco, but we are going to adopt autonomy. And at that time, in 2018, that meant Cattle Komatsu, closed system.
Oh,
So
I see. Okay.
that was our crisis, because we're looking at all the reports that in 10 years, 70% of miners were going autonomous, and we didn't have a dog in that fight.
Wow.
So this engineer came into my office and he said we should be looking at documenting how we could deliver an open system in the autonomy domain. And he advocated and has been the convener of the working group working on the ISO 23725 ISO standard since that time. And he said to me, we need to make this open. We need to publish what we do. Otherwise, the industry won't adopt it. So it was a single guy,
Wow.
Martin Politic, that came up with this as a concept. So open autonomy started in my office from that engineer back in 2018. And because our customers were telling us what I just shared, we lent into that and made a long-term commitment. And that commitment is now starting to give us commercial rewards. But it's been a long, hard road. And I can certainly say that I got calls from the OEMs and they asked me, what are you trying to achieve? Because we want to maintain a good working relationship with all the OEMs. It's very important we do that. I'll repeat what I said earlier. Cat and Komatsu delivered a lot of value to a lot of customers, and I kudos to them for doing that. However, you mentioned mixed fleets earlier. There was a lot of customers that couldn't adopt autonomy.
They just can't do it.
So
Yeah.
what did we focused on? Where is the value that we can deliver through an open approach? And that's been our strategy now, pretty solid part of our strategy now for a number of years.
I could I could keep you here just talking because it's very interesting, but I know you also have a show to get back to. I wanted to ask you. There's something I wanted to ask you though. Oh, to wrap up, I wanted to just get maybe you can refer to one of the case studies or the clients that you've already talked about. I just can you just walk us through just the day one to the 2 year, the 3 year mark. I just sometimes when I have these discussions and I think about the people listening is not understanding, are you coming to site? Are you inspecting all the truck? Do they send you sheets on every single unit? How do you actually get one of these projects going to make an autonomous fleet? It's an easy thing to talk about, but the actual step by step, the engineering involved, the communication involved, the timeline involved, not disrupting their mining operation, all those sorts of things. What does that actually look like from, let's say, day one to even the first year where you're integrating a system?
Yeah, look, it varies, but there are some pretty common themes, and I'll talk about what does success require. I think that with a couple of projects that are real projects, and we have autonomous trucks being dispatched now. The first thing that you have to achieve is you have to achieve commonality of vision. And these things aren't easy. And when you're looking at tripartite, multipartite agreements here, everyone has their own commercial interests. So the first hurdle to get over is each of the parties committing to a common goal, and that's really critical. If you are retrofitting an existing fleet, then of course, what you need to do early on is you need to be looking at doing the engineering work. How am I going to control those trucks? Doing that. The software releases are incremental, so you start to do software releases, and it's a slow rollout. You have to be very cautious because obviously safety is paramount. It's a big commitment. It's a multi-year commitment. A lot of people, a lot of engineering time, and partners that are willing to work through the challenges, because there's no doubt you'll bump your knees on these projects, whether it's from one vendor or multi-vendors. So having a very good working relationship, obviously solid commercial contracts to back that up, is really important. But in the experiences that we've had, it hasn't been as challenging as you might think, because the miners recognize how much value we're talking about here.
Right.
So one quote, and I won't say where it came from because they wouldn't be happy if I shared it. One quote was, "Yes, this might be a big investment, but this is worth billions to us." So it is, the size of the prize is huge.
Right.
And that's why, and we're co-investing. I mean, these are big numbers we're talking about. We're co-investing. We're 35% of the investment is us investing our people, engineering time, and then obviously we're getting customers pay us to accelerate us developing and delivering into the market. So yeah, they're really great projects. They really are. I mean, we've got some great partners. I mean, Roy Hill, I mentioned earlier, Rio Tinto. They're, and I go back to my comment earlier. I think from 2016 onwards, you see a new generation of leaders. You see a willingness to engage different commercial models, and I think if we all have an eye on the prize of what the commercial outcome is, a lot of challenges. It's not easy, but very rewarding projects for all of the parties involved. So, look, at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun as well, and I sell these projects to our new recruits, and it's been a really important part of us being able to build a really strong engineering group, which we need to solve some pretty significant technical challenges.
What's before I let you go, I feel like I really could keep you here probably another 45 minutes and just keep asking questions, but I will leave you with this one. What is a rewarding part of your job now? And I'm sure there's lots of them, but that drive into work, drive into the office, what do you actually look forward to facing in a day?
It's probably an intangible. Um,
Mm,
We do customer engagement surveys, and we get fantastic results from that. But you know what I really get a buzz out of personally is seeing our engineering group being excited by what they're doing.
yeah.
We've got teams that go to mine sites and they just love it. These guys are software engineers that sit behind computer screens, and when they come back from a mine site and they've had the reflective gear on and the steel cap boots and the hard hats, and they're just so excited and invigorated what they're doing. I love that. I see that passion,
Yeah.
the rewarding work they're doing, and quite genuinely, it makes me really happy to see that, because if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And, I think that we've got, we have a lot of that. So I love that. That's that in the stage of my career. If we can create an environment where that's the experience our staff are having, that's the most rewarding thing.
Well, I will tell you, it's pretty rewarding for me getting to do this for a living. You and I, if I was just at SME, we'd probably talk. I might stop by and say hi. We'd have a little chat, and then. But in this job, I get to sit there and ask 50 questions to people, so it's a lot of fun. I certainly hope this is not the last time you're on the show, Andrew, because I feel like there's so much more we could cover. But I also know you are busy, and it's a busy show, so I'll let you go with that. But thank you very much for coming on the show.
No, my pleasure. Nice to chat with you.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. We will have links if you want to connect directly. That's the beauty of LinkedIn being so open as well. You can connect directly with Andrew on LinkedIn. Of course, we'll have links to the Wenco website. They've got a YouTube channel. They've got a LinkedIn as well. We'll put all of that in the description of this video and be tagging them. So make sure to follow and subscribe and check out their website. And thank you for watching. Thank you to sponsors and viewers and guests on the show and our team out there getting all this production put together. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.